What's your opinion on dating after a breakup? Is there a time period where you should not date? How long does that look like?
Welcome to another episode. Would you like to introduce our topic, Miki?
Today we are talking about Breakups 101, everything related to exes, breakups, how to handle them, how to not feel like the world is ending, and kind of our personal opinions on whether you should do no contact, if there's an opportunity to remain friends.
Sounds like more than 101. Sounds like
102.
102. Just a disclaimer, we are not relationship experts per se. We don't have any professional degrees that would give us any expertise about that.
But we have both experienced tough breakups and fortunately come out on the other side. We are now in a happy relationship with each other. Would you say so?
Yes. So we can utilize what we did to find such a happy relationship and provide our thoughts about how you go through a breakup and how you find the right relationship.
Well, should we jump into some history here? So how many rough breakups would you say you've gone through? Ones that really shook up your
life? I think
life.
The first breakup is always the hard breakup.
The first love?
There's some articles about this, right? I think it's the one where you're the most naive and you have the biggest hope going into the relationship and you've never experienced
something nearly as painful.
And then I think probably 2 or 3 tough breakups.
Wow, that's a lot.
Thanks. How many have you gone through? 2, 3, 5, 10?
I am a serial monogamist, so I went through 2 breakups. The first one, I feel like I mentally broke up with him much earlier than the actual breakup happened, and so that one did not feel hard to me at all. When everybody was like, oh, breakups are so tough, I'm having such a hard time, and my friends would be crying, and I would try my best to console them, but I could never understand this idea. What exactly was so hard? And when I went through my second breakup, it finally hit me. I finally understood what the heck everyone was talking about.
A little bit off topic here, but what kind of music do you listen to with your breakup?
Oh, I listen to really sad, melancholy music. A lot of Asian mellow music like Jay Chou, JJ Lin, that kind of vibe. What about you?
I listen to Taylor Swift.
Oh, I listen to a lot of Taylor Swift too. There's a Taylor Swift song for every occasion in life.
There's also Taylor Swift lyrics that encapsulates your mood for every occasion.
So that you can use them for subtle jabs on Instagram captions.
If you want to go back to Miki's Instagram profile and look at some of her more cryptic stories, and they're probably Taylor Swift lyrics, and they probably mean something to someone
out there. Anyways, I don't know if you felt this way, but to me, it felt like a crippling pain. Physically, my heart hurt, and emotionally, very broken. When you first kind of go through that, all I wanted to do was just cry. Randomly, throughout the day, you just start crying. Did you have the same experience?
I think the same emotional feelings, as you said. But there's also the more practical aspect of it. To one extent is that you've imagined a future with this person, right? And so you're some of your plans are oh my gosh, this doesn't work.
Your plans are ruined.
But the breakup is not it happened in one day. It happens over a course of weeks, months. Or if someone breaks up with you and you don't know it's coming, then you should think about if you understand what's actually going on.
Whoa, sometimes people are just horrible people though.
I guess.
Sometimes people are really blindsided. In general, there should be some signs.
Yeah, when the breakup happens or whatever, it shouldn't be the first time that you guys had a discussion about it. In general, unless you thought the other person was perfect, there's definitely things where you'll be like, oh, I'm relieved.
And it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. But if you think about it practically, obviously there are pros and cons to almost every breakup. I think it's really normal, especially initially when you break up. I think you should let yourself be really emotional. And if you want to cry, cry. You shouldn't suppress your feelings. I think one of the worst things you can do is to not address those feelings and then have them come up later on down the line.
I agree.
Did you cry during your breakups?
Yeah.
Like a tear or
No, some real cries. I think it's good to get out.
Audible crying?
Not necessarily audible. A lot of fluid.
Are you crying by yourself in your room or?
Probably.
Aw, I'll give you a hug. I feel bad. It seems so sad.
Do you know why your nose drips when you cry?
Go ahead, doctor.
Do you know why your nose cries as well?
Why?
Because you have this duct here that drains your tears normally and it goes underneath into your nose. So your tears drain actually through your nose. So your tears are just coming out of your nose.
My nose is crying.
Your nose is a passage passageway for the tears that from your eyeballs.
The snot is way less cute, I have to admit.
It's
the tears is really cute until the snot comes, and then it's like not as
snot is very
aesthetic.
satisfying, though. No,
it's when you're just getting the.
That's messed up. That feels bad.
That's
when
me.
you have that, and when other people have that, it's so bad.
I think there are two types of people through a breakup. There's the person who parties first and then feels sad later on, and then there's the person who feels sad first and then parties later on. And I feel like usually in a relationship, one is one and the other is the other.
Do you think most breakups are mutual, or do you think it's usually driven by one person?
I don't think you can make any generalizations.
Yeah.
I think breakups are so unique in their nature. What do you think about no contact after a breakup? Basically, what a breakup is you envisioned in a lot of cases the rest of your life with this person, and suddenly that kind of dream and hope is shattered. Now you have to live on without this person being your
significant other.
Yeah.
I think it depends on situations.
Have you ever done no contact?
Yeah.
And was it painful? Were you waiting for a text or?
No, I think it's harder for first couple days, but if you just do it for like a couple weeks, I think it's much easier. It's doing cold turkey quitting. You spend a significant amount of time with this other person, so you have to, quickly fill the void in some ways. And depending on how you fill that void, and to do it in a healthy way, you can probably do a lot of work for yourself in the cold turkey quitting method.
Kevin's like, let me hit the gym.
A lot of self-growth happens, I think, after the breakups. Because what is a breakup? What do you have to do? You have to evaluate yourself, the other person, how you match together. So if the other person doesn't exist, you've already evaluated yourself with the other person. You can spend some time evaluating yourself and then figuring out what you need to change or do to make yourself happy.
No contact, huh? So one of my breakups, we broke up and I literally never spoke to him ever again. And
the other one you still kind of talk to?
The other one, we're still friends. That one was certainly much harder. I think when you don't do no contact, inevitably you have the anticipation that like, oh, what if they contact me? Like, will they contact me? So then you're kind of waiting around, and that's not really healthy. And every time you break no contact, you are reminded of them and what they meant to you. Even if you don't think you're thinking about it, it's in your subconscious. I think it can be really challenging, but again, really depends on what your relationship was with this person, even before you dated, while you dated. But I think it's healthy to take a break, or certainly a big step back.
I think one thing, if the breakup is more on the amicable side, if you're able to talk about the terms of the breakup, is to talk about whether you guys would like to keep talking versus not talking. Because if
one person's under the impression
that a pact where you discuss that we shouldn't talk to each other for a month, but you didn't have those conversations and one person keeps talking to the other, then you still might have, it's confusing for both parties.
That's
right?
True.
So I think it's important if you have the opportunity to discuss it in the breakup. I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing that. I think you can still talk to them and it's probably be okay.
I feel like it's hard. I feel like you really shouldn't. What's your thought on getting closure? Let's say you broke up, but there were still things that you feel like were left unsaid. What's your opinion?
Trying to figure out why did you break up with me?
Or like just things that you wanted the other person to know, even if you are going your separate ways. I personally feel like you should get closure and you should say whatever the heck you want to say, even if they don't respond, because you will have emptied your baggage. Do you know what I'm saying? And at least you tried, or whatever.
I'm not sure.
You've never needed closure?
I mean, I think you talk about it during the breakup, and if somebody doesn't want to share in that, then unless you broke up where the other person was just like, see ya, you have to talk about these things.
No, but things come up. Feelings come up afterwards.
Oh, I don't know if it's worth it sometimes, unless the other person is asking for it.
Another really helpful thing, I think, is to just write it down in your own journal or in like a notes app. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be conveyed to that person. Whether it's your journal or your notes app or whatever, you don't have to give it to that person. It's probably better if you don't, but those feelings should go somewhere.
Well, yeah, so you don't make the same mistake again also. Along the same veins, do you want to forgive, or do you want to forget about this person?
Do you want to go through the stages of grief first?
The stages of grief?
Let's give a brief overview, because the stages of grief is something that I think a lot of healthcare professionals learn in school with relation to losing a loved one, but in the same way when you go through a breakup.
Well, the stages aren't necessarily linear in that you can fall back and forth between them, but it's important to recognize where you are at and understand why it is you are doing some of the actions that you are doing.
Yeah. So stage one is denial. And I think this is a stage where you're not necessarily in denial of the breakup, but you're in denial of some of the things that maybe went on in your relationship. And a lot of times I feel like when you go through a breakup, you become very clouded and you are in denial of some of the negative characteristics that they had or some of the positive characteristics that I had. You become very polarized in your view.
It's not also about the other person, it's also about yourself. Like a lot of people are like, I'm fine. You can be in denial about a lot of things. People just tend to take that defensive stand because we don't like to feel vulnerable, or a lot of people in general don't like to feel like they're struggling. I think this is definitely the unhealthiest of the stages. So the one thing that you can do is recognize that you're actually having feelings of denial.
Yeah.
And having that recognition, you might not necessarily change what you're doing, but to understand that some of your actions may be from this denial aspect.
Number 2 is anger.
I think this one's fun. Miki would
this
agree.
One's real fun.
This one's fun. It's good to get out there and
go to a rage room if you need to.
Miki and I went to one.
We didn't break up, for the record. It was just for fun.
We went to a room where, they had like a windshield and a bunch of bottles set up, and you had like a baseball bat or something.
You can break all the stuff in there.
It wasn't
as satisfying as I thought it was.
It was kind of dangerous, to be honest.
I agree. But you know what? If I had that while I was going through the breakup, maybe I would have felt differently. I don't know. You get angry at yourself because I think sometimes you can blame yourself, or like, why was I so dumb to stay in this situation?
Yeah, I think there's good anger and then there's bad anger. There's bad anger where you end up using physical anger, yelling at people and doing all sorts of things. But there's also positive anger where you become angry at yourself or some of the situations, and you can channel that anger as like a lot of energy that you can put towards something.
Number 3, we have bargaining. This is a fun one. I feel like I bargained a lot. Even though we broke up, if he texts me, then it'll be a sign that XYZ, or the reason he's not doing this for me is because XYZ, like excusing other people's actions and basically asking for a sign from the heavens.
But I think this is a little bit more, it's getting to a point where you're recognizing that things didn't go right. You're taking a step back and trying to meet stuff in the middle. It's a stage that is still not quite healthy, but you also, again, should realize if you're bargaining.
Do you feel like you bargained?
Don't.
Kevin's superhuman. He skips some of the stages of grief.
Well, you recognize these things. I feel like denial is probably the biggest stage I would get stuck at, where I'm like, I'm fine. I'll just like cover these things up with the rest of the busy things in my life and not think about it, and then catches up with you a little bit. I don't know, bargaining, a lot of people, this becoming very unhealthy, right? Like their previous breakup becomes part of their identity, and they're using the characteristics from the previous relationship to kind of use that as a way of defining some of the actions that they're currently making.
Next up, we have depression. This is when I think everything, all the feelings catches up to you, and your heart hurts and you just feel really sad.
And this is perfectly normal for a period of time.
Yeah.
Like if it lasts more than a month or 2, then it might actually be something you should talk to someone about.
I think you should get all the help you need. Like get your friends on board. If you need therapy, go see a therapist. Talk to people about it. Like don't go through it alone, because I think that's the worst thing you can do. And talking to other people who've like gone through the same situations and come out on the other side and hearing their insight. And a lot of the times I feel like friends can talk some sense into you, like, oh, they weren't even that good. What are you even defending them for?
You messed up. They can either justify or point out things that you did wrong.
It's more objective. And then finally we have acceptance.
It's not like that happens. Acceptance happens suddenly one day, right?
I think it comes in waves. Like it'll continue to hit you and kind of go away. There will be days that you finally stop thinking about it, and then randomly you hear a song or you see something on the street and it'll remind you of them. But when you are accepting of that situation, it's far less like sharp pain and more like dull pain.
Well, I think it's kind of like a threshold, right? Your threshold for emotions and other things get picked up. Let me ask you, fresh out of breakup, you like see your ex post on social media a picture of them with another female or something.
Like fresh? Like we
fresh,
just
like a
broke
couple
up?
weeks. That would be pretty sad, right? But if they post one now, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Something hits you like your ex is, oh, they're engaged or getting married. You might have like a bigger reaction, right? So it just depends on the sorts of things that come up.
That's true.
Right?
I think it is a threshold.
There's different levels of acceptances.
Speaking of that, what's your opinion on social media after a breakup? Do you unfollow? Do you block? Do you keep them on the page?
If we broke up, do you have to remove everything of me? Then you have like no posts left.
You're savage.
I'm just making a joke. What do you think people should do with their social media with respect to the other person?
If you're talking about posts, I would definitely, well, if I don't see myself getting back together with a person, I would definitely delete the post, or not delete them, I would archive them. Kevin, if you don't know, the archive function is where only you can see it, nobody else can see it. And you could technically put it back on your feed.
I feel like I've seen those where before the actual breakup happens, people are like archiving. This is for like the celebrities out there. They're like looking on this post and they're like, wait, what happened to all the pictures of person? And they're like gone. I don't know how I feel about deleting everything.
What's your opinion on still following the person though? Because you'll still see their stories and see their posts. And I know you haven't gone through a breakup recently, so you have to kind of think about the Gen Z.
I don't know. I feel like it's rude to unfollow them and stuff.
Would you watch all their stories? Like when you see their little ring pop up, would you click it?
I mean, if it shows up, I think there's a curiosity to do that. So I would probably put myself in a situation where I wouldn't get to those situations, right? So I think...
So you can mute a person. So you can mute their stories and their posts so you never get like...
This is getting too complicated. I think it's okay to just take a break from them.
Like block them? Or...
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't remove posts.
So if we broke up, you would keep all the pictures still on your feed?
Probably. Maybe remove like a couple of them.
Oh my God, can't relate.
Why? What is the point of removing? You just don't want to look at it?
Actually, you know what? All those posts are being monetized. I get paid per view, so I'll probably keep them up.
Oh my gosh. What if I tell you to remove them?
That's fine. I would remove them.
What's the reason for removing them? I think there's a couple of reasons I can think about.
It depends how sour the breakup
I think like, what if you want to move to a new relationship?
Yes, like what a big red flag to have a bunch of pictures.
Is it a red flag?
Yes, okay. It's a huge red flag. There should not be pictures other than like with your sister.
What if it's like Photoshop? There's like pictures where it's clearly there's another person there, but it's gone.
I don't know. I think you should block them, but it would be difficult for me to pull that trigger. But what I would do is I would mute their stories and mute their posts, but I can't deny that I would also probably go to their page and
would you
to see what they're
continue to post directly after a breakup though? I think you should take a break from social media.
Have you seen this theory? So girls will ramp up their posting schedule once they go through a breakup, and guys will decrease their posting schedule.
Do I even have a posting schedule?
Even if I'm not having a good time, I'm gonna at least pretend like I'm having a good time.
Really?
100%.
I feel like that's a little bit unhealthy.
Oh, it's totally unhealthy.
But what is the theory behind you putting up the pretense that you're doing okay? Do you feel like you need to win a game in the breakup?
A little bit.
Why do you feel that way?
Whoa. This is quickly becoming a therapy session.
I think this is like the case for a lot of people, but I don't know if this is just healthy thinking or stupid thinking or unreasonable thinking. But like, it's not a competition about who does better after the breakup.
Is it not though?
But what if you just don't? What if we just don't post anything? There's nothing to win or lose. Do you just win?
You automatically lose.
Do you automatically lose?
Automatically lose.
Or do you feel like the other person's like, what the hell? They're not posting anything. I can't see anything. Wouldn't that make them more frustrated?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you trying to accomplish? You're just trying to show.
I mean, I think another part of it is putting yourself back out there, like letting the backup options know you are single now.
Let's talk about this backup options. What does that mean for you?
I mean, there are just people in your life who you could be dating them, but you're not dating them. But maybe if the right opportunity came up and things aligned, things could work.
Interesting. Right? That's a lot of thinking.
I don't even think I consider them until like the breakup has happened. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I am friends with this person. I guess technically.
Do you have a list?
No.
Mickey's backup list?
Not a running list.
What is that? What does a running list mean?
No, I don't have a list.
A walking list?
You don't have a running list? You don't have anyone on your list?
No.
Anybody in your personal life where you're like, oh, if things didn't work out?
Not really.
Not a single person?
I don't think so.
You've never thought about it?
Not really.
I don't
You're
believe
just
you.
Too perfect. If I lose you, then the world will end.
Do you think that you ever stop loving somebody that you once loved and then broke up with?
Yeah.
So would you say you don't love any of your exes anymore?
I mean, it's a cop-out answer, but it depends on what your definition of love is. I don't think you still love them.
I have love for them. I'm not in love with them, but I have love for them.
I don't think it's love. It's more like you had a connection with this person. Like you're more
they
likely
were like
to
an
care.
important part of your life. Yeah.
Like if randomly out of the blue that one of my exes texted me that they needed help with something, I'm more inclined to help them than like
a stranger, regular
acquaintance
friend.
Or a friend, right? Like
more history with this person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think contrary to popular beliefs, your ex exes are a representation of people that you dated, right? So I am not a fan of people who just bash their exes, because that's a little bit unhealthy.
You chose that person.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of bad exes, a reflection of not just those people, but yourself.
Interesting
right?
take. Yeah, I don't think Kevin has really ever said anything negative about your exes. Other than that, it didn't work out.
Well,
obviously.
I've talked negative about myself. I think I have reflections like, I've messed this up, or like, I shouldn't have done that.
Like
right?
within the relationships, you mean? Yeah.
But I don't know if that's just being too naive.
What's your opinion on dating after a breakup? Is there a time period where you should not date? How long does that look like?
I think I have a pretty pessimistic view after a breakup. I'm all about that self-growth. So like at the beginning, I was like, every day I spent with this person, I'm going to take one day for myself and grow. That's kind of unrealistic.
That's not realistic if you are a woman in her childbearing years.
I guess. I think it's good to take a break because you need to figure out yourself. So that's unfair for the other person.
The new person, you mean?
The new person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you need, if it was a serious relationship, and again, talking about a lot of women can mentally, or men too, like mentally break up with someone long before you actually do the actual breakup. Like I think 3 solid months minimum of like recovery, 6 to err on the side of caution, but there's no rule book to life. Like you might just meet somebody at some time. I think it's totally okay to go on dates. I think there's something really powerful and still flattering about knowing that you can still get yourself out there, that there are still people who are interested in you. Like the world isn't coming to an end. You have options. There are plenty of fish in the sea, right?
I think it just depends on your personality and how fast or how slow you move. But timing is so important.
Yeah.
Timing is just so hard sometimes to get two people who like each other to have the time to be in a relationship together. So like you can't really control that. If it happens, if a new relationship or opportunity comes up and it's early, or if nothing happens for 6 months, that's also totally normal. You can't force things.
Do you think right person, wrong time is a thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in that situation?
I mean, we almost were like that, right? Like our timing is probably not the best. But
yeah.
Wasn't the best, but it made it kind of easier.
But also, if the timing wasn't what it was, we would have never dated.
Because you're not also the same person. Like the person that Miki fell in love with, I wasn't me like that a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like it took a couple of other things for me to be where I am.
To be who you are today.
Yeah. I don't really believe in the soulmate concept. I think there are also multiple people that you probably end up being with that you could be happy with. There's not just one person on the planet. That's like statistically.
I don't believe in a singular soulmate, but I believe in the concept of a soulmate. I do think there are people who you just click with, that your soul is almost tied to in a way that feels so different than your relationships with other people. And it doesn't even have to be romantic. Like I think there are friendship soulmates, platonic soulmates. You don't agree with that? You don't feel like that?
I don't know. I think there are people that you get along with a lot better than other people, and you know that pretty early on. But I don't think so, because you only meet so many people in your life. It just doesn't make sense. What if your soulmate isn't like...
Well, that's the thing. There's like, so many people in the world. And
like, what if your soulmate is a random person in like South Africa?
I'm not saying you only have one soulmate, but I'm just saying, what a special coincidence for you to have met somebody who you have a special connection with. I don't feel like I'm your soulmate.
I feel like
he declines to comment. Any other questions?
I don't think so, but I think people who are asking Miki or whoever those questions about what should I do with a breakup, we don't have any extra, like you're going through a tough time with people who are reaching out on social media and you're asking people for help. And I think it's a good thing that you're asking people for advice. You're reaching out, and that is one of the good steps in trying to figure out how to feel better. There is no like secret formula. There's a lot of things that you can do, and some of them are more good and some of them are more bad.
Something that really helped me was I read a lot of books and I listened to a lot of music, listened to a lot of podcasts, talked to my friends about it. Like, you should do all the things. But the one quote that I read that really like changed my mindset was that while you're going through the breakup, it'll often feel like nothing is getting better and it just feels crappy. And you'll wake up the next morning and you'll wonder why it still feels that way. And it said, healing happens slowly and then all at once. A lot of the time it feels really slow in the beginning and it feels like very little is changing, but slowly but surely, like one day you'll wake up and you'll realize that you are worth so much more than that and you can get through this, and there are other better things to life to focus on.
That is very beautifully said. To all the brokenhearted people out there listening,
we feel you. It's hard. It is not easy.
You can do it.
Yeah, you'll get through it.
All right. With that somber note, please tune in to next week's
Hopefully
show.
On a more uplifting note next week.
Hopefully by the time that our next episode is out that you'll have tried some things. Some things will have worked. Some things will have not worked.
We're always open to feedback. Our DMs are open. Feel free to message us. Leave us a comment. Let's do a quick summary. Number 1, breakups are very hard, and that's very normal. Number 2, you should use all the resources that you can. Do all the things you want to do, even the things you couldn't do in your relationship. Get on it.
Identify the stages of grief. There's no magic answer to getting over a breakup, but it happens over time and you'll get through it.
And number 4, healing is not linear. Okay, and that's a wrap. We will talk to you guys next week.
All right, see ya.